Right now, 250 miles above your head. The single most expensive object humanity has ever built is racing around the planet at 17,000 miles an hour. It cost more than $150 billion. But here's the part almost nobody realizes. It isn't even the strangest way we've spent that kind of money. Over the next few minutes, you're going to see 10 of the most staggeringly expensive things ever built. Islands dropped into the open sea. A machine that recreates the birth of the universe. A bridge so long it vanishes over the horizon. Some of them are quietly sinking. Some may never truly be finished. And number one is orbiting the Earth as you watch this. Stick around, because the numbers only get more insane from here. Number 10, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. And at roughly $1.5 billion, it's the cheapest thing on this entire list. Let that sink in. This is the tallest building on planet Earth. More than half a mile of steel and glass punching into the sky, and it barely makes the cut. It's so tall that people on the ground floor watch the sun set, take an elevator to the top, and watch it set a second time. Building it meant pouring a foundation of 200 concrete columns sunk deep into the desert, and pumping wet concrete higher than any pump had ever pushed it, at night, so the heat wouldn't crack it. When it opened, its tip could be seen from 60 miles away. And remember, everything after this only gets more expensive. Number 9, buried 100 meters under the border of France and Switzerland, is a machine that cost around $9 billion, the Large Hadron Collider. It is the single biggest, most complex machine humans have ever constructed. Picture a perfect circle 17 miles around, a tunnel wrapped in thousands of supercooled magnets, chilled colder than deep space. Inside, scientists fire tiny particles around that ring at almost the speed of light and smash them head-on, 40 million times every second. Why? To recreate the conditions that existed a fraction of a second after the Big Bang. In this tunnel in 2012, they found the Higgs boson, the particle that gives everything in the universe its mass. $9 billion to touch the first instant of creation. But number 8 left the planet entirely. Number 8. The James Webb Space Telescope, a $10 billion eye, folded up like origami and flung 1,000,000 miles from Earth. Its golden mirror is over 21 feet wide, coated in a whisper-thin layer of real gold, because gold reflects the faint infrared glow of the oldest light in existence. To work, it has to be colder than minus 370 degrees, so it hides behind a sun shield the size of a tennis court that unfolded in space in a sequence with 344 ways to fail, and not one of them did. And then it opened its eye. It looked at a patch of sky the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length, and it saw thousands of galaxies from the dawn of time. Light that had been traveling toward us for over 13 billion years. $10 billion bought us a time machine. Number 7. Palm Jumeirah, around $12 billion, and it's not a building at all. It's land that didn't exist. Dubai looked at the flat, empty water of the Persian Gulf and decided to build an island shaped like a palm tree, big enough to see from orbit. To make it, they dredged 120 million cubic meters of sand off the seabed and sprayed it into shape using GPS, so precise the fronds line up perfectly. Then they ringed the whole thing with a 7-mile breakwater of boulders to hold back the sea. No steel skeleton, no concrete core, just sand and rock, arranged into a shape you can only truly appreciate from space. Today it's covered in mansions, hotels, and roads, all sitting on ground that engineers conjured out of the ocean. But number 6 is the most expensive building ever raised. Number 6. In Mecca stands the Burj Al-Bayt, the Makkah Royal Clock Tower, and at roughly $15 billion, it is the most expensive building complex ever constructed, 10 times the price of the Burj Khalifa. It's crowned by the largest clock face on Earth, a clock so enormous you can read it from over 10 miles away, lit at night by 2 million LED lights. The tower rises nearly 2,000 feet directly over the holiest site in Islam, and it was built to serve the millions of pilgrims who flood the city each year. Inside is one of the largest floor areas of any building in the world. $15 billion for a single tower and clock, and somehow, we're still only at number 6. The next one stretches across the open sea. Number 5. The Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau Bridge, around $20 billion and 34 miles long. It is the longest sea crossing on Earth, a ribbon of road that runs so far out over the water it simply disappears over the horizon. But here's the clever part. Ships have to keep passing through this stretch of the Pearl River Delta. So, in the middle, the bridge doesn't just end at the water. It dives. It plunges into an underwater tunnel that runs along the seabed for nearly 4 miles, then climbs back out on the other side. To make that possible, engineers built 2 artificial islands from scratch, right in the open sea, just to let the road sink and rise again. It used enough steel to build 60 Eiffel Towers, and it was engineered to survive a super typhoon and a magnitude 8 earthquake. Number 4 also floats on water, badly. Number 4. Japan needed a new airport, but it had run out of land, so it built one on the sea. Kansai International Airport cost about $20 billion, and it sits on a man-made island nearly 3 miles long, built in a bay from scratch. Engineers flattened entire mountains for the rock and dumped over 180 million cubic meters of it into the water to raise the island above the waves. And then came the problem nobody could fully stop. The soft clay seabed underneath began to compress under all that weight. The whole island started to sink. It has already dropped more than 38 feet since it was built, and it is still sinking today, forcing Japan to jack up the terminal on thousands of adjustable columns just to keep it above the sea. A $20 billion airport, slowly being swallowed. But number 3 is hidden completely out of sight. Number 3. The Channel Tunnel, around $22 billion in today's money. A railway that runs under the sea between England and France. For thousands of years, the English Channel kept the 2 countries apart. Then, starting in the 80s, giant boring machines the length of 2 football fields began chewing through the chalk beneath the seabed, from both sides at once, aiming to meet in the middle. They drilled not 1 but 3 parallel tunnels, 31 miles long, more than 100 feet below the seafloor. And when the British and French crews finally broke through and shook hands underground, 2 countries were physically joined for the first time since the Ice Age. Today, trains rush through it at nearly 100 miles an hour, and most passengers never realize the crushing weight of the ocean sitting right above their heads. Number 2 holds back an entire river. Number 2, the Three Gorges Dam in China, over $30 billion, and the single most powerful machine on the face of the earth. It stretches 1.5 miles across the Yangtze River, more than 600 feet tall, a wall of concrete holding back a reservoir 400 miles long, a man-made lake so vast you could lose entire cities in it. And that's exactly what happened. Building it flooded 13 cities, 140 towns, and forced more than 1.2 million people to abandon their homes forever. Its turbines generate as much electricity as around 15 nuclear reactors, making it the largest power station humanity has ever built. It holds so much water, so far from the Earth's axis that NASA scientists calculated it very slightly slows the planet's rotation. The day is a tiny fraction longer because of it, a dam that literally changed time. And yet, it still isn't number 1. And number 1, the most expensive single object human beings have ever built. The International Space Station. More than $150 billion, floating 250 miles above your head right now. It's the size of an American football field, and it did not go up in one piece. It was carried into orbit bolt by bolt, module by module, over more than 40 rocket launches and a decade of assembly, then bolted together by astronauts floating in the vacuum of space. 5 different space agencies and 15 nations built it, countries that were pointing missiles at each other a generation earlier. Since the year 2000, there's not been a single moment when a human being was not living up there. It circles the entire planet every 90 minutes, so the crew watches 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets every single day. $150 billion, the price of the most complicated, most peaceful thing our species has ever managed to build, and it's soaring over your city as you watch this. So there it is, $150 billion orbiting silently over your head. But before you go, here's the twist. The space station is the most expensive single object ever built, but it is not the most expensive thing we've ever done. If you count entire programs, the Apollo missions that put 12 people on the moon cost over $260 billion in today's money. In America's interstate highway system, all those ordinary roads you drive on without a second thought cost more than $500 billion. We will spend almost anything to reach higher, dig deeper, and cross the impossible. So which of these 10 left you speechless? And would you have spent the money? Tell me in the comments. There's another incredible one waiting for you on your screen right now. Go see it. And subscribe, because the world is stranger and more astonishing than any of us ever imagined.